Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us. I hope everyone has suitably shaken off last night's hangover, considering it's 11:30. You'll also be pleased to know that we are the last session before lunch, so you can cling on to that. So, just to give you a little bit of context about this morning's session, we thought rather than standing up here and we talk about ProAct for 20 minutes, it would be incredibly wise of us actually to invite our customers up and for them to speak and share their challenges and, I suppose, their hopes for the future. So just by way of introduction, we have David Griffiths, sat in the middle there, who is the Head of Infrastructure at Durham University. We have Sam Jenkins, who is the Systems and Storage Engineer at the University of Nottingham, and then Mark Wade, who is the Head of Platforms and Hosting at the University of Sheffield. So before we get into the actual content of the session, I did want to share with you a little bit about ProAct and what we do. There'll be many people in the room that have never worked with us before and, dare I say, might have never even heard of us before. So I wanted to cover that off. And I think it's important to note there's lots of partners that you'll see here at UCISA, and they offer a very wide range of things, anything from a couple of laptops to a cloud migration. I'm going to say something that someone in sales wouldn't usually come out with, which is that we don't. What we have are real niches, real specialisms, and actually some really good stories to tell that we're very proud of with our customers. So, very briefly, those areas of technology that we do have specialisms in are in disaster recovery, particularly around operational resilience, cybersecurity, but quite specifically within MDR and XDR, digital transformation within the cloud, and modern workspace with end users. And today what we're focusing on is very much ProAct's what I would call bread and butter, which is data center, and focusing on sustainability and helping our universities work towards those net zero goals. But that's enough for me. For now, what I'd actually really like to do is get the questions started off. And Sam, if it's okay, I'll start with yourself for the first one. How is the university at Nottingham dealing with exponential data growth?
I'd like to say very well, if I'm honest. At the moment, not great. The one thing everyone knows about data is that it only ever grows. And people generally, including myself, don't really enjoy managing their data. So, you find data that's been around for years and years and years. In the meantime, you're having to store that data, whether it's on-site storage or whether it's in cloud storage. So one thing we've done recently is implement NetApp's BlueXP classification tool, which does both data analytics and provides compliance data. And what this does is it scans your data, providing information such as last access dates, last modified, ownership information, as well as things like whether it contains medical data, personal identifiable information, and all those kind of things. And just from our recent scans, we found over half of the data we're storing on site, on NetApp storage arrays, hasn't been accessed for over 7 years. And as you can imagine, this has been migrated from old file servers. Some of the data we found was from 1994, when it was last accessed, by the way. So it's gone from old file server to new file server, from file server to storage array to storage array. Right. And every single time that hardware becomes end of support, it has to be migrated again. And obviously that is costing the university money. I don't like, as a systems engineer, I don't like having to ask for money, because it's always a huge battle, especially in the current climate. So there's a big push now to use tools like BlueXP classification and others to help us reduce the amount of data we are storing. And that's especially true when it comes to the Microsoft 365 data due to Microsoft's recent licensing changes.
Excellent. Who's going to be brave enough to delete the data from 1994? That's Excellent. Well, I'll
Hopefully
move on
not
to the next question. Mark, if it's okay, I'll hand this one over to yourself. How does the university see the future of storage and backup? Is it cloud? Is it on-prem?
Okay, I think I'll just step backwards first and
Sure.
just so we let you know where we are and why we're there. So a few years ago, and I'm sure this will resonate with lots of people, is that lots of schools and faculties had the NAS boxes under the desk that they purchased from PC World. Central IT only ever found out about it when it went wrong. Can you repair it for us? And obviously it's quite difficult to repair the NAS boxes. So we went out, we worked with ProAct, we've purchased the NetApp, similar to Sam as well. So we offered enterprise storage and we offered data free to all the schools and faculties. And it's fixed the problem. It was a great result. We've now no longer got the NAS boxes underneath the desks. However, that has now left us in a position where we've got lots of unstructured data. We've got petabytes of unstructured data. And then, so we're looking at ways we can improve that. We're concerned that we could be actually breaching your data legislations. So we're now looking, like Sam is at Nottingham University, to try and improve and understand this data. When we do that, we can start using auto-tiering, ensure that data lives on your colder storage, and we've then got options through NetApp to actually move that to the cloud and archive it to the colder, cheaper storage. So we must improve it, and as Sam said again, in this financial situation, we must do that. So cloud versus on-prem. There's always been the strapline of cloud first, but that's been going on for 10 years, so if people are still saying cloud first, it can't work, because why are you saying that still? So we really are taking a pragmatic approach into, is it cloud appropriate, especially in these financial times? There's more emphasis about the business cases, what's the value of bringing this to taking it to cloud. What we have found is that keeping our data on-prem, we've got 2 data centers, and we're also backing up with NetApp to a third-party data center, and it works really well. It's low resources for managing that data, so it's a really good solution for us. So for now, it's certainly majority on-prem, cloud, where appropriate, and we're looking at the archiving the older data off. From a backup point of view, as I've just said, we're still using NetApp for the backup. Moving forward, we're wanting to be able to recover data quickly, stand things up if it's a cyber security, what's our critical systems, how quickly can we stand that information or those systems up. So it's something that we are working towards.
Excellent. Thanks for that, Mark. David, seeing as you're next to go, we'll hand this one over to you. What are the IT teams at the university doing to move towards a net zero target?
Thanks, Jack. So at Durham, we've got some published targets towards net zero. We're talking about scope 1 and 2 for 2035, with then a further stretch target of scope 3 for 2050. What I would say is that at Durham, IT isn't really the focus for the net zero. So we've got a large estate, we've got some legacy buildings, some historic buildings, an 11th century castle which was designed for open fires and maybe a servant either side slowly turning a pig. You know, these kind of things are far higher up the estate's priority than where we are. But what we're looking at is, what are we doing with the on-prem data centers? So we've undertaken an exercise to try and find out the PUEs. We've got that for one of them now, and that's coming in around the 1.5 mark, which actually for a kind of general purpose corporate data center, I'm surprisingly pleased with. And that's the one that has a design efficiency worse than the other one. So when I get the other numbers in, I'm hoping they're going to be below that, and I think I've got a good reason for that hope. So the one that's coming about 1.5, that's water cooled. The one I'm hoping coming in lower, that's free air cooling, where for most of the year, we're just relying on the fact that Durham's far enough up north. We can send the North Sea winds through, and we don't need to actually do anything much in terms of active cooling, just move that air through, and that should be good enough. We're taking a big look at what does it look like on technology refreshes. So looking at the storage piece, we're coming up around needing a refresh soon. Our current solution is a mix of SSD accelerators and SAS, SATA drives, etc. Last gen's technology. We're almost certainly going to be going all flash for the next one. We're thinking that should really bring those consumption figures down. There may be a small price premium on the initial purchase or on the the managed service agreements, but we're thinking that should be able to be offset quite nicely and hopefully with a decent TCO return if we can take a look at all flash once you then factor in the energy costs, the cooling costs, etc.
Yeah, lovely. Well, hopefully next year we can talk about the next data centre.
I realise I've just said in a room with various vendors in, I've just said we're due a refresh, and I'm regretting that right
You're
now.
going to be very popular at lunch. I'd run straight for the train. Sam, have you got any comments to add to that? I know there's some stuff going on at the University of Nottingham.
I'd like to say in a couple of years' time when, I shouldn't say this either, should I? When we're due for a refresh of our storage, some of our storage, I'd also like to go for the all-flash arrays. I keep being told that the price is becoming parallel to spinning disk. I'm still hoping that will be the case in 2 years' time. But yeah, obviously the energy consumption, the savings that you get from moving from spinning disk to all flash are enormous, and you're also using up less space in your data center, so there's savings to be gained there, power and cooling, the whole lot. There's also, we use Blue XP, which I mentioned before. It has a sustainability index built in, which shows you your power consumption in carbon output, estimated carbon output from your NetApp storage arrays automatically. So it's really useful. It also provides recommendations as to how you can improve your sustainability score. So I'm starting to look at that.
Very good. David, I think I'll move back to you actually for this next question. I think it'll have particular interest to everyone in the crowd. If the worst was to happen, what would the university's approach to recovering data be in the event of a cyber attack?
So at Durham, we haven't yet had a wide-scale compromise. We've had a few little incidents that haven't really given us major incidents, say at a university level. We've had individual PCs ransomware, but it didn't get out of the user context. We've had a specialist system compromised, but it was contained within that. But we're trying not to be complacent on this. We think it is a case of when, not if, and we're trying to make sure we're prepped for that. So we've got a tape-based backup solution supplied through Commvault, through Proact, which is Commvault-based. That we're trying to make sure we've got air gap on there. We're trying to make sure we're rejecting these tapes. We've got 2 data centers that store the majority of our kind of corporate data, then plus another 2 for the HPC, which I'm not really going to go into here. But for the 2 corporate ones, we eject the tapes from DC1, we put them in a steel box in DC2, and vice versa. And yes, it's a bit of a manual pain in the backside, but that gives me the ability to sleep at night, knowing that no matter what happens to the production systems, no matter what level of access someone gets into, those tapes in a box can't be damaged or tampered with by anyone who isn't physically there. The risks really are making sure that the data is sound going onto the tape and sound coming back off the tape, and we've got policies and procedures we're looking into on that. But for us, it really is a matter of once they're in that box, we've got that isolation, we've got that air gap, and that's really what we're looking for. But also, we recognise that's 3 months. It's taken that kind of length of time to get the petabytes onto there. It'll take that kind of length of time to get it back off. So we're also looking at how can we prioritise that? How can we make sure that we've got, we're looking at immutable snapshots, we've got those enabled. So we're aiming for, we don't want to reach for the tape. We're looking to say, okay, why would the immutable snapshot fail? Well, maybe there's a firmware level compromise on the NetApp or the Pure Store. So we've still got that plan B, we've got that last resort, but I do see it as last resort. I want my recovery, if we do find ourselves in the worst case scenario, I want it to be disk-based. I want it to be that more rapid recovery, but I'm not prepared to just trust only to an online disk.
Of course. Excellent. And Mark, any comments from yourself, University of Sheffield?
Yeah, so we're still looking at developing a disaster recovery technique, so we have got some sessions coming up and some scenario-based cyber attacks, and it's then understanding working with the InfoSec is actually how do we recover the data, what data has been breached. So it's ensuring you've got good system logging systems that's not local to your storage, located in the cloud. So then you can understand the impact, and then it's then how do you recover that, which is your critical systems, ensuring you've got your tier 1, your tier 2s, and it's getting all that data and your systems mapped out, which it can be a challenge throughout the university. We currently support over 2,000 virtual machines, so if everything gets cyber attacked, where do you start to recover? So it's really important to ensure you've got that information.
Yeah.
We've also spent a lot of time looking at all the intricate dependencies as well. So it's very easy for people to sit there and think, well, of course, I'll log into this and I'll do this. Is that okay? That laptop you're planning on using to log in from, is that working? Okay, I'll go to the data center. Okay, your swipe card, is that working? Oh, I'll dig out the recovery keys. We're kind of challenging all these steps and making sure that we've worked out, okay, yes, we've got physical override keys to the data center. Do we know where they are? Have we accounted for all of them? We've just changed the locks on our data centers. Making sure that we've got a concept of some stock laptops that have just come from PC World and they're still in their shrink wrap, and we're keeping them in a cupboard. So we've got at least some end user compute, even if every managed device the university's got is unavailable. So we're putting a lot of thought into actually what does the process look like, assuming that everything's gone. Yeah, BT broadband lines, if they've decided to have a go at our network core or our distribution routers.
Yeah, excellent. We're doing quite well for time. We're moving into the last question. I think it's one that's particularly prevalent. I'd be surprised if there's not a university in the room that can say that this doesn't affect. But Sam, I'll finish off with yourself before we take some questions. How are budget restraints restricting IT's ability to operate? How are you attempting to circumnavigate financial pressures?
Yeah, so I already sort of mentioned that the last thing I enjoy doing is asking for money to buy stuff, because it's always been hard at universities. I've been working in universities for around 25 years now, 3 different universities, and they've all been the same. It's always very, very difficult to get budget for, especially infrastructure. Main reason, infrastructure is one of those background things. No one knows it's there till it goes wrong, and then everyone knows it's there. So obviously my job is to help replace things before they start breaking. That's my main role. Yes, so I think one of the things that helps me in putting together a business case for, either improving the service that I provide or replacing kit is being able to show all of the benefits of doing so, and they might include stuff that is included in the new storage, for instance, that we want to buy. Do you get with NetApp, you get the autonomous ransomware protection, which David briefly mentioned, which provides immutable snapshots. It uses sort of AI to detect potential ransomware threats and creates an immutable snapshot, which you can then use to recover that data from. You can also, by the way, mark it as a false positive if it is a false positive. So there's things like that. There's also I mentioned the BlueXP classification tool for data analytics. That was actually made a free license by NetApp back in May. It used to be a completely paid for product. That's now included with your NetApp licensing if you buy one of their storage products. So that provides a huge benefit at zero extra cost. So all things like this, help to put together a business case, to get stuff replaced.
Excellent. That's all I took from that was the start, which is don't ask for money from
yes.
finance.
Yeah, absolutely.
Always
absolutely.
the simplest answer.
Yes.
No, I think you're absolutely right. I think proving that total cost of ownership, the return on investment, building that into your tenders and making that quite prevalent. David, I'll move on to yourself before Mark. Any
of course.
thoughts?
So for me, it's a matter of can we show a TCO reduction, if we can show a revenue budget of whatever for this year, if we can show that by putting this investment in, we can bring that down next year, finance are very receptive. We can also, typically, again, it's around that cyber security piece. That's an area that's still concerning the senior leadership at the university. They also recognise that it's likely to be a when, not an if. They've seen the impact at other institutions. Some of them have seen the impact firsthand at institutions they've worked at previously. And that's a good story to tell when you're trying to persuade the budget holders that this is something you need to invest in.
Excellent. And Mark, any thoughts?
Yeah, so I've only been at the university 18 months, and prior to that I was at local government, so I was used to working with pennies, and so I came to the university and it was like happy days. I've got these amazing budgets to work with. It was fantastic, and then I found myself in a similar position again now, which I've obviously got the experience now to be able to cope in these financial pressures. So I think we're now in a position where we need to start looking internally and how we can improve, how we can better manage our data. Just recently, because of these financial pressures, I'm probably going to be saving around 150k a year plus making an advancement in some of our hardware. So we've got some old Oracle servers that we're paying for premium support for. They're actually running some of our SAP environment on there as well. And the support contract is significant. So we've actually looked at can we improve this, or can we do anything about that? So we've actually looking to purchase a brand new server. So it's going to be a faster solution, and the support contract over 3 years, it's going to save me £150,000. So it is really important to start looking at your contracts and thinking, where can I make these improvements and savings? So I've had a good budget. We've had a good budget for a few years, so we're in a good place for an infrastructure point of view. But now it is time to start looking internally, and when you are building your business cases, ensuring that you are putting more focus on the value. I think it's been so easy from a university point of view. Certainly when I first started, is that you asked for money. It wasn't a stringent business case that you had to put together. So I think we really need to get to grips with that. Yeah. Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right. I was just looking at the time. We've got a couple of minutes left, I believe. Okay, 1 minute left, I believe. If anyone did want to ask a question or two, we'd be happy to take those now. Oh, yes.
Hi, it's Ryan from Bournemouth University. I just wanted to know whether your experience of live exercise of actually restoring backups. I know it's going to be expensive or disruptive for the operations, but do you can you share your experience of doing that, if you have it done or you're planning to do it?
So yes, we've done some kind of DR drills. The way we've done that is we've effectively paused the live backups. We've used the tape drives, the tape libraries, the Commvault installed to restore. We've then restored that onto temporary equipment, which we've just poached out of the recycling pile, given it an extra week's life, and then proven that we can do a small-scale restore of some systems. We're looking to scale that up. I've got a PO in or awaiting approval for a little bit more parallel kit so that we can look to do that with a larger scale system. So at the moment we've done it for some bits and pieces in infrastructure to prove that we can get things like Active Directory back, DNS, DHCP, some VMs, we've brought back a monitoring system, those kind of things, which gives us the confidence that the processes are sound, but it's not really something we can demonstrate to the business. Look, we've got one internal IT monitoring system back is not a story the VC is particularly interested in. So we're looking to now try and scale it for our student record system, which is still on-prem. And for anyone who runs Banner, you will know that that's an ambitious aim I'm going for, and we'll see how we go on that.
Very good. We'll do one more question, then I'll wrap up, and everyone can scuttle off to lunch.
I think the word lunch is
sent shivers down the spine. Well, in that case, I will wrap up. So thank you very much to our speakers and for joining us. After the session and after lunch, if you did want to come and chat to us at the stand, we're just over in the corner, either about something that one of the panellists has discussed, or you'd like an introduction, or perhaps one of the areas of technology that I mentioned earlier. And this will particularly prick people's interest. We've also got some Greggs vouchers. If anyone would like to continue a conversation with us after today. Otherwise, I'm going to have to use them all up and eat them on the train home. So come and help me out. And that's everything. Thank you very much for joining. Much appreciated.